Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
We can't talk about sex and relationships and even throw in tests and manifestation and all the things that until we deal with this.
Yes.
Breakups and endings and walking away. We've touched a bit upon this in the season already about how actually when we walk away thinking that's what we need to do rather than what we feel like doing, we're actually probably missing some very valuable information. I'm not going to go through that again. It was episode 2 for anyone who's interested.
Okay, fair.
But then the question does come, if that's maybe not the moment to walk away, when is? When do you walk away? And how do you know?
Okay, well, I think you answer that question for yourself. You've been there.
Well, I was hoping that we would have a conversation about it.
Yes, it begins with you sharing a story. So in a karmic attraction, you referred to a relationship that was a bit revolving door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first book, yeah. First chapter.
And you stayed in it until you didn't. And
Yes.
that's how it was. And even though you would talk about wanting to walk away.
Now. Sorry, it was such a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a very
now.
long time ago.
I remember
This
now,
isn't who
yes.
you are now.
No, I remember now. Okay, fine. I remember.
Okay.
Basically,
Who's the goldfish today?
Honestly, basically for me it was actually really simple. Is that I remember I used to basically every Friday night we would have some kind of argument and then I'd end up crying. And then one Friday night, for some reason, we didn't see one another. And I went to bed, no tears. And I remember waking up the next morning going, why do I feel so fresh this Saturday morning? And I realized that it was because I hadn't seen him the night before.
Okay.
And at that point, my eyes started opening to the fact that actually being with him was making me more unhappy than when I was alone. And that's kind of how I knew it was done. Now, in terms of the relationship, since it's, we joke about it. I always need to go back one last time to test out to make sure I'm really done. But often there's kind of 3 or 4 things that give me the tip-offs. One, the energy just doesn't feel like it's there anymore. That somehow I'm trying to source it or dig it out from a well that doesn't almost exist. And so I'm going through the motions. Yeah, it's literally. Like I'm going through the motions, but there's no feelings to underscore it. And when they're not around me, I don't feel them. And I don't know if that's like this weird psychic thing. I don't know.
No.
I just don't feel them. And if I do, it's more, it comes in an icky feeling rather than one that feels like light.
Okay.
So that's often a good way that I know. Second one is actually when I interact with them and I find myself thinking, actually, whatever our interaction is, somehow it's making us feel kind of back to the first, unhappy in some way. Am I lighting you up or am I somehow making you feel lacking? Are you lighting me up? Or do I somehow feel lacking? And normally, for me anyway, when it's come to relationships, how do I know when they're done? Is when I can't find the light. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm like, I'm listening because I'm like, this is great stuff.
I was done now.
Oh, okay. Those were your
because that follows it. And what's funny is that sometimes they do recur. They do come back in a slightly different way, or so maybe one was lovers, now they're friends. Sometimes it's a different relationship because, well, the thing is, and that's the other thing that I've always noticed, is that every moment we spend moving forward, even if we feel like we're static, if we're still making choices and we're still moving forward, we're always growing, we're always evolving, however you want to just term it. Yeah. I can't believe I use those 2 words, but we are always growing up, right?
I'm rubbing off on you, Rhea.
So if the person I didn't see for 3 months reappears in my life, or a year reappears in my life, or 6 months, or whatever it is, the relationship will naturally be different because I'm different, right? So in some ways, the relationship has ended and a new one has begun, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting because when I look at fate and when I look at kind of 5D and harmony and things like that, and I think, well, that kind of really just shows how there really are no endings.
No, there really
because
aren't.
even if I never see that person again, they're still a part of me, like we discussed in the last episode. They're still a part of me and my growth. Therefore, I am who I am because of them in some way or another, because of our interactions with them.
They've left an imprint on your fate tapestry.
Yeah. So they are with me, but then also sometimes when they reappear, and I don't think I don't think I'm the exception in that case. Maybe I am because I always seem to reappear. But like,
no, there are a lot of people who will experience that.
Yeah.
The returns.
Yeah.
I don't, or I didn't, because I will generally burn every bridge.
And also you got married very early. So maybe you would have
Not necessarily early, but yeah.
Yeah,
just
in terms in your dating
Yes.
experiences. So like maybe had you not been married in your 20s, that you would have had more experiences of returns because you would have been more
Possibly.
open to them.
Possibly, but yeah, no, I am a
And also you're traveling all over the world. Like
I'm a bridge
I stay
burner
in one
though,
place.
Rhea.
Yeah.
I pretty much, I mean, there are people like me though. You don't, because you're just like, nope. I mean, texting wasn't a thing, but I have a friend who's very much like me, just block, block, block.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
find
I am a
blocking the
bridge.
strangest thing.
Yeah.
Do you block people?
No, not now because I only have friends.
Yeah, but would you?
I don't know. I can't say for certain. But again, if I'm a bridge burner, there's a chance I might block somebody that I used to date that I'm not interested in. I don't know. Possibly. I don't wanna
When you
say.
end it or like a year later?
I don't know. Maybe if I ended it. I can't say for certain.
I always find that the weirdest thing. Like, I remember we were discussing it recently. Like, we haven't spoken in 2 years, yet somehow I appear to be blocked. It's like, wow, I didn't think of you in those past 2 years, but you clearly thought of me at least once because you managed to block me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like, what?
Well, some people, they
How
just
the
really
fuck did
want to
that
feel
happen?
like for some people, they just want to draw a line. They just really want to draw a line under things, and that's what allows them to move forward.
But it's bullshit because actually it's just a play of mind, because the fact of the matter is that
Well,
even if
not-
you've drawn a line, our experiences will have somehow shaped
Right.
you. So I'm going to be there.
You'll be there, but for some, it does underscore like I've moved on from this. And for some, it's an energetic shift. For me, it was just energy where I just don't want that. I don't want that energy with me. Yes, you might be, I'll never forget you. As hard as I try, although my memory's so poor, but it somehow seems to recall everything from my past, my far past. So you're always going to be there. But energetically, I'm okay with the fact that there's nothing that can connect us.
Gosh.
It's not harsh, though. I think people think it is, but I know for me, it's just my way of moving on. You know, it could happen with friends. You know, that's happened to me before with friends where they're just like, you know what, friendship breakup, done. I'm like, okay, I move on.
But I just think it makes so much more of a point to like go back after a while and block the person.
Possibly. I don't know.
I find it a bit lame. And
Okay.
no judgment.
I mean, in the end, it almost doesn't matter, though.
But that's the point. I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter really one way
Yeah.
or another. I mean, it's like you do you for whatever reason you need to do you.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I think that's
And
the thing,
whatever
though. I think
works.
some people do, and this is just an alternative opinion, you know, when you kind of look at the kind of old adage of like nature pulls up a vacuum, which I believe in, it's almost like you need to create those shifts so clearly. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I will block this person so that tomorrow I will meet someone new. Mm-hmm. Right?
Possibly.
And I used to be like that in terms of I never blocked because I just found it really pathetic and lame. And like, honestly, you can always send a text. So blocking is just so symbolic. It really is impractical in every sense.
It's like burning a photo. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean
it's just
the
it
person
means
doesn't
nothing.
exist.
It just doesn't work.
Right.
But there were points where I thought, oh, I must end it with this person explicitly because otherwise I won't meet someone new. Right?
Yeah.
And
okay,
whilst
that was not my approach.
no, exactly. But exactly, and I think there's a lot of kind of stuff also wrapped up in that. And I do think that, of course, when someone exits our lives, it makes room for someone else. But it has to feel natural. Otherwise, that person's just going to re-enter. I also know, by the way, just as a side note, of many relationships, not mine, where they just block and unblock each other periodically just to piss the other person off.
Oh my God, what a game. That
But
sounds
that's
really
what I mean.
lame.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like it's very loaded now. I think being kind to someone and just saying, hey, listen, like, this isn't going to work. And then you move on. And if they repeatedly text you and you stop,
Yeah.
and they're you're not responding. So they haven't got the message. Yeah. Blocking them because it's annoying to keep getting messages. 100% I understand it.
Fair.
But otherwise you can end things very nicely with love with someone and also never have to speak to them again.
Yeah.
Without, anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on from the blocking that I've really focused on. So yes, of course, allowing something to end, give space for someone new to come in or someone else or a new relationship of whatever kind, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing I guess that I always think about is that as we've discussed in A Karmic Affair,
Okay.
which will be coming out soon enough, is that actually love is experienced by you.
Yeah.
We think that it's shared between two people.
That a person has to bring it out. In us.
Exactly. But actually, it's it's experienced by you and you're just watching it reflected back to you, right? So
it's shared.
It's shared. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've said that all wrong. But like basically, love is not created by two people. It's individually experienced.
Yes, exactly.
It's shared by the individuals in the relationship, as in we feel love when we're with each other.
Yes.
But it's
I
not.
got so much love
Yeah, exactly.
in me, around me. I am love. I am the divine.
And you are reflecting that back to me, super loving amounts, right? But it's not, love isn't dependent on another person.
No.
It's dependent on our capacity to love.
Yeah.
Which is why I've always said, and I think my friends have always hated it when I say this, someone can only love you as much as they are able to love. And that is literally, like, you can't say...
Well, somebody can only share the love that you have when they have love to share too.
Exactly.
Right.
With another way of saying it.
Yes, exactly.
So really, like, and because relationships really push us and help us grow and help us evolve and help us...
They help us grow.
Yeah.
And our evolution is a byproduct of that. But our evolution is not dependent upon relationships. That's the distinction, which took me a long time to learn or understand.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me,
Yeah.
Ish. So really, we need to be able to walk away from ones which we've kind of stagnated in so we can keep on moving forward.
Exactly. So we walk away for two fundamental reasons.
Go on.
Right? So the first is that there's no more room for growth or evolution, like you said.
Like, they're
One
not
of
changing,
you-
we're not changing.
Exactly. Something's not happening. And, one or the other doesn't wish to change. It's like, this is enough. It's the complacency we discussed, right?
It's just there's no more light in it.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer being able to reflect my light back to me effectively.
And so what happens is when we become complacent, the light will eventually diminish. Slow doses, like small amounts at a time, depending on what
the
was
light
there.
between the people, not in ourselves.
Well, it ends up being in yourself, right? Because if you're here for your own growth and evolution, that's your light. Your light depends upon how much you're growing and evolving. Now, it's not to say that your light will diminish but if you're not growing and evolving, it will.
I mean, I hate endings, so all of this is like a supremely uncomfortable topic. Keep going.
I'm really sorry about that. But fascinating that this is episode 4.
Why is it episode
so
4?
early on when we're not finished talking about relationships? It'll become clearer as we go.
Fine. And what's the second thing then?
So that there's so much more within our fate. And that person, that individual or whatever, however they are in your life, cannot be part of that part of your fate, right? So they either cannot share the consciousness that you have that lies in that part of your fate tapestry, or their purpose cannot align enough with yours, which is
Well,
still
so
part of
basically
your
what
fate.
brings me joy and what brings you joy, to the most part, are entirely different things.
Entirely different things, or are putting us in entirely different parts of the world where we cannot bridge that distance. That's that's physical. Or my consciousness and your consciousness, like, whoa, like way different.
Like the way you react to things and the way I react to things just so differently.
Yeah. I mean, and again, if this is like a
No, because the reason
non-karmic
why
reality,
I'm saying this, because like, I don't think anyone's like, let me just go check my fate tapestry. Oh, okay, I see that in A and B don't match with Z and O over here. Or someone go, oh, let me just look at my consciousness barometer. So these things are actually quite, like, they're intangible. So that's why I'm asking like the tangible-ish.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think for some it's a bit more obvious. For some others, it may not be.
Yeah.
And so again, this is if you were never in your karma.
Okay, karma never happened.
Karma never happened, which I have to keep reminding people because they're going to be listening to this maybe just out of their karma. Hopefully no one's in their karma anymore. That would be, that's my dream. This is different from when we're in our karma, where we just want in or out of a relationship, depending on where we're at, for relief from our pain or to reinforce it. So our choice to stay or leave in that relationship is determined by our not good enough story.
So basically
right?
what you're saying is I don't leave because being in a relationship is how I define my worth, for example.
It validates me.
I do leave because being the one that ends it first also validates me. So basically all the choices that we make around whether or not to stay in a relationship are to do with our not good enough story.
Yeah.
Like how we don't believe we're good enough.
Exactly.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. So,
but this isn't it.
what do you
This
mean?
isn't that.
No,
You say
it's not that at all. No, this is the conscious realization that to one degree or another, not all relationships can exist in the same way for an entire lifetime, which is something that we have been socialized to believe. As just as our consciousness shifts, our relationships will shift. So
this is a
to
bit of the
point
modern
where-
love stuff.
It is a bit that, but a bit more elevated than that.
Okay, fine.
Because
So
I can't remember what the difference was, but I felt like we'd already surpassed modern love.
no, we said divine union. This definitely isn't that.
No, this isn't. This is kind of like, whoa, again, how do you know it's going to end?
Well, no, and I guess it's more. It's not so much of like how do you? Because it's like I'm ready for something new.
I need something new. It's not even just that I'm ready, but this isn't serving me, and I'm dying here.
So what about the other
relationship.
person who they felt like it was? So in 5D, in harmony, in all these things, right? Karma never happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a relationship. It is no longer serving them to be in it with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's not serving one, it is definitely not serving the other.
Okay.
And the other, somewhere, is supporting that relationship to keep it going.
Fine.
Someone is. Someone's definitely going to be more invested in the other to keep it up. And either they're giving more of their light and they're trying to source as much as they can, and the other person is just pretty much like, whatever.
Because I guess really when it comes to relationships, I'm answering my own questions again. It's very annoying of me. But you want to be in a relationship with someone who wants to be in a relationship with you.
Presumably.
If you're not in your karma, that's
Yes,
kind of the number one
exactly.
thing.
It's
So if
all
you don't
about-
want to choose me, I don't want to be in a relationship with you.
Right. It's meant to be
Because that's going to
mutual.
make me feel like shit.
Yeah. If I'm forcing this, if I'm willing this for the both of us, and you're just not in it. I mean, everything is meant to be mutual.
What happens if no one, it feels like no one wants to be in a relationship with that person because they're always the one being broken up with? How does that work?
Okay. Well, when you're asking that question, it's a very karmic question,
Okay, interesting.
right? And I
guess
don't mean to
honestly.
keep indulging the like, well, let's just fantasize for a bit. We don't have our karma, but this is a non-karmic reality, right?
Yeah.
And we're having to bring that forward for people so they can really understand that it is possible. Yeah.
No, I
So
get
we
it,
have
yeah.
to be able to, but it's like anything else where, you just think, is my luck going to run out? You don't stay in a relationship out of fear that you will never have another relationship.
No, 100%. Oh my God, I've done that. It's terrible.
A lot of people have done it. A lot of people do it.
Yeah, it doesn't actually work. Everyone just ends up resenting each other. But the truth is that when I think about it now, as you're saying that, is that actually when we're in our karma, just as a side note, we tend to perceive and then react and act from a place which effectively reinforces our karmic story. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So if you're unlovable, you're going to behave in a way that ensures that you continue to believe you are unlovable.
Well, you start indulging your own suffering.
Yeah.
So the suffering surfaces in many ways.
And there are and not that plenty of fish is even a thing.
No.
Because actually when you know who you are and you're in your purpose and you're in your fate, ain't plenty of fish. It's a number of fish. But there are a number of fish who will be drawn to you.
Yes.
In your
exactly,
life.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. Because it is not in most people's fate. And I will say this again. I'm assuming you kept it in the other episode, but I'll say it again.
Well, we've said it so many times, but say
I'm
it
going
again
to keep
'cause it's
saying
important.
it because for the majority of people out there, it is written in their fate.
So then how does monogamy and marriage fit into that?
So monogamy and marriage spans are going to change in the short term as we really grapple with what commitment means and growth and fate and how everything fits together. So we're not going to just see fewer marriages and people taking longer to get married, but definitely more marriages not lasting a lifetime. And because we're going to have to, and it hasn't yet surfaced, because nothing changes until things surface, right? Like nothing can fundamentally change within society until it's been really served up in our faces, right? So until then, if we're grappling with it individually, it kind of remains underground. And so what we've been dealing with in this kind of as we're coming into fifth dimensional oneness consciousness, or as we're just really grappling with coming into full consciousness and higher consciousness, we're really having to allow a lot of the shit from our separation reality to surface. One of the things that we have not yet fully approached, but is coming, it will peak by 2026, is the lack of integrity within the institution of marriage. And that has a lot to do with our approach to monogamy and how monogamy was used to keep the institution of marriage what it was, but has also led to a great deal of dysfunction, which is why I think in the next episode or two, we're going to be talking about infidelity.
Oh, fun.
We've been dealing with the fact that our perspective on those things have been hurt and damaged mostly in an individual level, we will be dealing with it on a social level coming up. So in prior generations, it was, there were children of divorce. My husband is a child of divorce. We're also going to be looking at the fact that people are going to be splitting before even having children. We're just going to be like, what is this all about? And we are forced to question it.
Why am I
society.
getting married rather than just living together? What is the point of being married?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I have to have a reason. I mean, I have to have a conscious reason. I need to be entering into this consciously, as in full body conscious.
Rather than we've been together for X amount of time and now we need to be committed to each other with a piece of paper and a piece of metal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which actually means nothing. Unless you choose.
It only means it only means what you allow it to mean, not because other people tell you what it means.
To be fair, I've never seen you wear a wedding ring.
Oh yeah, no, I don't really wear mine.
Yeah. What we forget is in every moment we interact with our partner, we're choosing them. Mm-hmm. We're choosing them to be our partner. And we may not be choosing them tomorrow. We may not be choosing them the day after. We may not even be choosing them that evening. But we are choosing them.
Yeah.
So until we remove, we have to take responsibility for the fact that to be with someone means that we are choosing them in that moment.
Yeah.
And that is actually something I think we all miss. So when we're talking about marriage, what effectively we're saying is, I'm choosing you and I'm choosing to continue to choose you forever.
Yes. Which not everybody can come into that space.
I mean, that feels like quite a big choice.
It is a big choice. And for some people, especially in this time of uncertainty, that's not necessarily a choice that many people can make. They're not in a position to.
No, so instead it's, I'm going to choose you until I stop choosing you because then we'll just get a divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Until I discover that maybe it's just kind of inconvenient. Or maybe you don't fit my life 10 years from now because I haven't quite figured it out. And so we used to kind of use certain checkpoints or barometers for compatibility of once I'm in my career, I can get married because then I know what I'm doing and I can support, etc. But as we know, not all jobs last.
No, but I'm just going to say it. How is that any fucking different from saying once I'm in my purpose? Or saying once I know who I am and I found my soul, I found my soulmate. How is that any different? It's just a different way of saying the same thing, which is once I know who I am.
Because one is an external thing, my career. But one is the internal thing of I really know who I am. And therefore I know my truth. I own it. That choice is a lot easier. It's a lot clearer.
But then also even knowing it, and we've spoken about growth and evolution now in a lot of these episodes about how you change.
Yeah.
I could choose someone tomorrow, but in 3 years' time, I could be such a different person. They might just not fit me anymore.
Yeah. So when you are in that stage, a non-karmic reality, okay, which shifts things, because that's a way different landscape, you will likely be with somebody whose growth and evolution will match yours if you've met them at a certain stage of your life.
So how do you know?
You may not know, but you know yourself well enough that
it's worth a punt?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Because you have that level of clarity. Again,
and also
it goes
you're
back
okay
to
with
that.
the endings that if it doesn't work,
right,
or if it morphs.
But the thing is, long-term relationships do have endings. They do,
but
they're not
croaks
permanent. No, I don't mean endings as in, we're over. But I've been married for over 20 years now, and we've had a few endings, and we've needed those endings in order to begin again. And we choose each other every time. I've chosen him. I think he seems to think that it's all good. I seem to bear a lot of the emotional weight of our relationship, where I'm the one who's aware that maybe we're in crisis because he's in crisis or something. And I'm like, okay, I can't keep holding this together for us while you stress and freak yourself out about something because whatever. But I also can't necessarily, if he's in the throes of something, I'll share a brief story because I had a feeling it would come up. There was a time when I wanted to leave. I was done. I couldn't hold it together anymore.
When was this?
This was when we were in Brazil. Actually, he was in a constant state of crisis in Brazil. And we moved to Brazil because I knew, and I even wrote a book about it, which I never published, but I knew that the shit was going to hit the fan for him.
And we also discussed this in one of our previous episodes as well.
Possibly.
About Brazil and the song, Bittersweet.
Oh, yeah, Bittersweet Symphony. When I had to leave LA and I was like, this is my Bittersweet Symphony because I'm about to, this shit's going to get worse, not better. And I embraced it because I'm always up for change and growth because that's just my sick self. I mean, you can shake your head all you want, but that's how it works for me. And so, things got shittier for him. And of course, we know that that's part of one's karmic process. And it is really hard to be with somebody who's going through their own shit. Not like I was probably really pleasant going through my own shit, but whatever. So then we moved to New York and things got worse, right? Because he faced a great deal of insecurity and I was done. I had been with our small children and I was like, I can't mother someone else. I can't carry this. And it wasn't like I was carrying it all. I mean, he was still feeling everything. It wasn't like I was making it all better, but I could not hold it together anymore. And I would sit there and I'd just be like, I feel done. I feel so done. I can't do this anymore. It was hurting me. But at the same time, I also knew I couldn't pull the rug out from under him, especially because he's somebody with massive abandonment issues. It's a very cruel thing to do. Didn't feel right because I knew that it would make it a lot worse for him. And at the same time, what was I going to do? You know, like when we're in a lot of pain, we come at it from this space of like, I just want to feel better. So leaving him would have made me feel better, but would have not necessarily created a better situation or better life for myself. It just would have alleviated the discomfort I was feeling in that moment or for those months. And then I would have had to deal with all the other shit on the other end of that. So, and I just remember thinking, and I know I've said this and written this, but your person isn't necessarily their pain. People are not their pain. No. Right? And so I was like, okay, well, let's see how things go, right? He got a new job. Things got a lot better over time.
Did he know that you wanted to leave?
No. Again, I would never tell him in that moment. That would have been awful. Because then he would have tried to ameliorate things for me and not necessarily for himself. And then we would have found ourselves in the same position a year or two later. Yeah. Never without him actually dealing with his own issues. Because that's what I needed him to do, was deal with his issues. And then if things didn't get better for us by him, then I would have known. Yeah. Then I would have known. But it did get better for us. Yeah. And when you have small kids, that's also just an extra stressor. And so sometimes you need time. Now, in this kind of scenario here, in this episode we're discussing if we were never in our karma, when I really think about when we first met and I think about all the times in which when we're not suffering under the weight of our karma, how much fun we have and how much we have in common. So still our paths continue to run parallel. Well, that's just how I know we're still good, because our paths are still running parallel.
And I think that's what you mean, like when we talk about endings, and endings are continuous, and I was talking about some people come back in or some people come back out and all this stuff, is that even actually when it comes to the relationships that last, they end all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Because here was our karmic phase. Now that's done, which is very rare, but still. Here is the bit where we're pre-children, post-children, in between, living in one country, living in another, different careers, the dynamics, the way people interact with each other. Relationships are shifting and growing all the time, which means they're always having endings.
They are.
And until we really can understand that with endings come beginnings, and endings don't mean what we think they mean, and beginnings don't mean what they think they mean, and everything is just a bit continuous but constantly improving, we're never going to be able to really be able to grow and evolve, because we're always going to be scared for what the next thing is going to be.
Yeah.
But when you look at it as, what if it never happened? Then the question is, what if we're not scared of the next step? Because we know that the next step brings more joy. Yeah. Then would we be open to seeing where this relationship does go and allowing it to evolve? Because it could evolve into something greater, or it could make space for someone else greater, right?
Yeah.
Because actually, at the end of the day, if we keep looking at things like an end goal, like, oh, we made our 75th wedding anniversary, thanks medical miracles, also because we're living in 2060 or whatever, then we all deserve a prize. And it's just like, wait a second, no, but how many moments of joy did you have? That's what relationships need to be measured on. How many moments of joy? How many? Yeah,
and we tell ourselves survival is, joy comes out of survival or surviving things, right? And we made the best of this. And you're like, well, no, but are you having fun?
Yeah.
Because for me, one of the gauges, or when I think things are starting to stagnate, I look at, well, when was the last time we laughed together?
Yeah.
When was the last time we had fun? Because it is very easy to get mired in your daily grind.
Question. Do you equate like the health of your relationship with a sex life or not really? Because I know a lot of people say that when you get married, like it, you know,
it ebbs and flows, especially when you have children. I would, you know, people are lying if they say that's not the case, and you need to be ready for that. But at the same time, you generally are, because again, as you're growing and evolving, you can accept that maybe there are just certain times and certain years where things slow down because you're going through so much, right? But that always brings me back to, well, how much fun are you having? And by the way, as we record this episode, full transparency, my husband's having, you know, we still live a lockdown life and it's hurt. As we said, you know, I'm moving and I'm looking forward to that move because I know that it will break the cycle that we've been in, you know, but we live with this and I live with this, but we live with this consciously where it's something that we address because it's not easy. It's not easy that he's underfoot. And that I work from home and he has to work from home and he has less human interaction than I do, right? Like there's a lot of things. Your
human interaction is me.
Oh no, I have friends. Thanks, Rhea. It is really helpful, but I do have friends. I do have family.
I'm just quite bored. Boring.
No, it's not that you're boring. It's just you don't want the weight of, you don't want to be the weight of being somebody's everything.
No.
And I've had to be that and be in that role for him as a result of the circumstance that we were in. And that's not easy. But the fact that I can share that and also know that that's also coming to an end. And I'm not saying I live for that ending. It just that's also temporary. So one also has to really gauge, is what you're going through something that is temporary?
Yeah.
Or is it more permanent? And why is that? But you know, some people, they don't necessarily want to deal with it. I make the choice because I know we're better together. I'm better. I like the life I have with him, even if we have these bumps sometimes.
So funny, an episode about endings ended up being about the entire opposite.
Well, no, not necessarily.
No, but it's just interesting.
As much as we're saying that there are more endings to come for a lot of people, as we see in terms of like this kind of move towards oneness consciousness and things kind of falling apart. It's not that marriage and covenantal relationships will end with that. Like they won't go with 3D separation. We can still bring them into oneness consciousness, but we can only do that consciously.
Where we choose someone and we're aware we're choosing them every day.
Yeah, and they choose us and we're not forcing it, right? We haven't become complacent. We haven't fallen into this mold.
We're not influencing them.
No.
By being their, I don't know, financial, emotional, physical, anything, source of anything.
No, exactly.
You know? And I guess the only way you can truly consciously choose a covenantal relationship is I don't need you, but I want you. Mm-hmm. And vice versa.
Yeah, but you need to know yourself to be able to say that and to know that clearly and come at it from a space where it's not about the validation or the affirmation or you're not good enough story or this pattern that you have, right? Or you're too insecure to think about what could life be like outside of that.
Because life could be better.
It could be in many ways. Yeah. I mean, I'm aware of what my life could look like beyond, but I'm also not going to indulge in that fantasy either because I also know the reality of life as well and what I need, what my needs are, what my wants are. We hit points for our souls that we just need to move forward and evolve. And what does that look like? Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.